Okay, good morning, everyone. Good morning. Mem Tesamad Aleph. Tani Rabba Bar Barchana Kamei de Rav. Kifsei Atzeres Shachtan L'Shum Elim Ksherin V'lo Ba'alim L'Shem Chova. So you have the Kifsei Atzeres, which are supposed to be lambs less than 1 year old, and they are shlamim. And what you do is you also have to bring olas, which are rams, which are more than one. The L's are less than one. The R's are more than one. So the Kifsei Atzeres, the lambs that you shacht l'shum elim, that means that you shachted them for the rams, for the olas. It's kosher. You can still throw the blood and eat the meat, but you do not. They still have to bring the Kifsei Atzeres. The Baalim here are obviously not the Baalim. The Baalim here are the Jewish people. Says the Gemara, Amar le Rav, alu ve'alu. No, even if you shach the Kifsei Atzeres l'shum elim, as an ole it works. Amar Rav Chisna mistaber milsei dirav b'kisavar elim v'shachton l'shum kvasim. Means I understand if he thought that they were elim and he was a lahachisnik and he shachted them l'shum kvasim, because at the end of the day, sharei kvasim l'shum kvasim nishchetu. So at the end of the day, even though he thought they were elim, or he knew they were kvasim, or he knew that they were elim, and he shouted them for kvasim, even though he shouted them for the wrong thing, at the end of the day, he happened to have been right. Sometimes lahachasniks are right, and he shouted it for the wrong thing, and he happens to be right. So Lamais, at the end of the day, he shouted a kevis for a kevis, even though he thought that it was an elim, and he shouted it specifically not for the reason that he wanted to, or not what he was supposed to. It doesn't matter. A kevis is a kevis is a kevis, and therefore, it's going to work. That's how the Gemara understands. But if you think that it was an elim and you shachted it as an elim, then it's not going to work. Akira betos havi akira. So again, if it's a kvasim and you shachted l'shum elim, what does that mean? So that means if you think that it's an elim and you shachted for an elim, then seemingly the Gemara says it's not going to work. Akira betos havi akira. For Rabba Amar, Akira betos lo havi akira. And Rabba argues and says, no, anything that's b'shogeg is still going to be an akira. And that's what we're going to deal with for the rest of the time. But again, in our case, Kifsei Atzeres shachtan l'shum elim kisherin, v'lo ba'alim l'shum chova, Amar le Rav, alu va'alu. Now before Rav Chisda again comes along, the pashup shot is that what? You knew you were shachting it for the wrong thing. It's not going to work. Rav says, even if you shachted for the wrong thing, it's going to work because Lamaisa, you still shachted a keves. Comes along Rav Chisda and clarifies that what? That Rav, who says it'll work, even Rav only says it'll work. If you end up having the wrong intention, you think it's an ayil and you shachted for a keves. But if you specifically shacht it as an ayil, when you know it's a keves, that's not going to work. But in the end of the day, we get into this whole discussion about whether, then there's another machlokes over here, which is related, that whether when you shech something akira betos, that means you uproot something by accident. Akira means to uproot. So you uproot it by accident. Is that an uprooting or not? If you do it b'shogeg, are you ruining it or not? So the first opinion says akira betos, havi akira. If you do it by accident, you're ruining it. Therefore, again, even if you think it's an ayil by accident and you do it for an ayil by accident, it's still going to be an akira. You're going to ruin it. And according to Rabbah, is saying no, akira betos lavi akira, and as long as everything is accidental, if it's lahachisnik, if you do it just to anger God, or you do it b'mezid, then it's not going to work. But akira betos, if you make a mistake, then lavi akira, it's going to work. That's the machlokes we're going to deal with now. So says the Gemara, which one is it? Amar Rava, umosvinan ashmaitin. We have a challenge to Rabbah who says that if you make a mistake, then it's still going to work as long as it was an innocent mistake, oversimplifying things. Says the Gemara, hakohanim shepiglu b'mikdash mezidin chayavin. So what does it say? A Kohen who is pigel. What does that mean? It means you bring your korban. Sometimes it's not at your own mercy. So you bring your korban, and the Kohen takes care of it, and he has pigel. He has the intent that it should be thrown at the wrong time, that it should be eaten at the wrong time, etc., etc. So what happens? If he does it b'mezid, he's chayav because you were in Yotzei the korban and he messed up. So he's chayiv to pay you the value of the korban, either because it was a mandatory korban, now you have to bring a new one, or it was a voluntary korban, and in the voluntary korban you still wanted to bring it, and lemaisa you weren't yotzei. So Gemara hashogegim p'tur, and that implies that if he messed up by accident, that he's going to be pater, even if he ruins it. V'tani Allah pigul am pigul. What do you see? It says over there that even if he makes a mistake and he has pigul by accident, He thinks you could eat it tomorrow. He thinks you could throw the blood tomorrow. Why is it Kohen servicing? That's another question. But at the end of the day, he thinks a mistake. That was b'shogeg. And at the end of the day, what? You still see it's not going to work. Pigul on pigul. That clearly shows that akira betos, if you uproot something by accident, havya akira, unlike Rabbah. It's going to ruin it. Hechidami. So what's the case of shogeg? Well, what's the case of shogeg that we say it's still going to be pigul, but he's not going to be chayav? Right? The difference between the two is that it's going to be chayav. He's going to be pigul regardless, whether he did it on purpose or not. The difference is by mezid, he's going to have to pay you back, but if he did it by accident, he doesn't have to reimburse you for the actual korban. So what's the case of shogeg? So if you think that the case of shogeg is that he knew that it was a chatas, and he thought, again, he's not shechting it for the wrong purposes, he thought in his mind, shlamim. What does that mean? Shlamim can be eaten for 2 nights and 1 day. So he thought in his mind, this korban will be eaten for 2 nights and 1 day, even though I know it's a chatas and it's only allowed to be eaten for 1 day and 1 night. How's that a case of shogeg? That's pigul b'mezid. At the end of the day, he's going to be chayiv to pay you. So what's the case of shogeg? Ela lav de kesab or shlamim hu. You brought a chatas, and he thought it was a shlamim. And he thought that it was a shlamim. He thought you brought a shlamim. Therefore, it was all unintentional. He thought you were bringing a shlamim. He thought that when he has in mind, it's for a shlamim. Therefore, it has 2 nights and 1 day. Therefore, Lamaisa, that's considered to be a shogeg. Utani pigul on pigul. Alma akira betos havi akira. And you see, nevertheless, it's pigul, even though he was totally innocent. He thought that it was shogeg. And Lamais, it's still pigul on pigul. You see that akira betos is havi akira. Amalei no, olam diyada de chatas. No, he knew that it was a chatas. And he thought for a shlamim. So why is that not mezid? Uva omer mutar. It's not that he b'mezid did it. It's that he didn't realize that the din of a chatas is different than the din of a shlamim. So it was like a semi-shogeg. It was a semi-shogeg, therefore pigul on pigul. But if it was a total shogeg, where he totally didn't know what the korban was, if it's totally shogeg, then he's going to be off the hook, then it's not going to be pigul on pigul. That's how we would answer. Because again, it seems like the shogeg here, still pigul on pigul. That's a problem on Rabbah, who says that if it's an akira betos, if it's shogeg, lohavia akira. It's not a problem and it works. He's saying no. When I said akira betos, lohavia akira, that it's going to work, that's when it's totally b'shogeg. There's 3 categories, basically. There's totally b'shogeg, where he has the wrong korban, and he doesn't even know what's going on, and he's totally lost. He thinks it's a shlamim, it's a chatas, and etc., etc. He thinks that it's totally different. Here, he knows it's a chatas. So, there's a little bit of, it's like, if you're totally ignorant, that's, I don't say ignorant, if you're totally lost, that's shogeg. If you totally know what's going on, that's mezid. In the middle is where you're like sort of shogeg, sort of not. That means you know it's a chatas, you just forgot to learn the halachas, a chatas is different than shlamim. So it's like you sort of should have known better, as opposed to if you don't know anything, you didn't really know any better. Again, I'm oversimplifying it, but it comes out that when he says that akira betos, lohavi akira, that we're not going to uproot anything, that's totally b'shogeg. This case wasn't totally b'shogeg. He knew that it was a chatas, he just knew the halacha wrong. He thought that a chatas gets the same halachas as a shlamim and gets 2 nights and 1 day. So in the middle, he's going to agree over here that pigul on his pigul, even Rabbah will agree. But in a case where he says akira betos, so havi akira, where it's not going to ruin it, that's when it's totally b'shogeg. If he would have thought that this chatas was a shlamim and he would have treated it like a shlamim, that would be total shogeg. Again, it sounds like he's saying that there's 2 different types of shogeg. There's like a total shogeg where you just don't where you misunderstood the mitzius, I would say. You misunderstood what kind of korban this was. The mitzius, that's a total shogeg. Where you know what the korban is, you just don't know the halacha. That's sort of like quasi shogeg, where you should have known better. Yeah. You should have learned a little bit more, and therefore we're going to say you're pater, but pigulan is still going to be pigul. Yeah.
Let it be a dining mum in case it's adjudicated in Beis Din.
So we're saying in Beis Din that Lamaisa he's going to be pater.
Because he can be pashaya, especially if you talk.
Okay, so we might have to. We might have to be. We might have to check out exactly because again, well, we might have to check out in terms of whether pigul on pigul, even not for dinei mamas, we have to figure out what kind of shogeg he was according to this. But it comes out that we don't have a proof against Rabbah, and he could still hold that if it's totally b'shogeg, then we're going to say that it's going to be accepted. But this case where we said pigul on pigul was not a total shogeg case. Says the Gemara, Masiv Rabbi Zera. Rabbi Zera has another kash on Rabbah. Rabbi Shimon Omer Kol Menachos Shenik Mitzul Shelo L'Shmang Sheros V'Alu L'Balam Shem Chova Shem Menachos Domos L'Zvachim Shakomitz Machvas L'Shum Marcheshes Maseh Mochichin Ala Shim Acheves Charav L'Shum Belula Maseh Mochichin Ala Shim Charava V'Abazvachim Enokein Shchuta Achas L'Kulan Kabbalah Achas L'Kulan Zvika Achas L'Kulan. So Rav Zera says that we have a brisa from Rabbi Shimon that says that when you do kmitza on a mincha shelo lishma, it's not like doing shchita or zrika shel lishman an animal, and it's actually going to work. Which means what? That if you go ahead and you take a kamitza machavat l'shum marcheshet, it means you have the machava, which is a flat, hard korban mincha, and you do it l'shem the marcheshet, which is a fluffy, soft one. You say, I'm doing the kamitza for marcheshes, even though it's clear to us that this is not a marcheshes, this is a machavat. In that case, we're going to say that it's going to work, because it's clear to everyone that it's a machavat, and when you said marchesha, we're looking at you like you're crazy. Therefore, we're basically having intention for you that it should be lishma for the right thing. But by an animal, when you shech the animal, you do the zrika, we can't have any intention for you because we have no idea what's going on in your mind, because every animal looks the same. So yes, there are some animals that maybe are brought specifically for a tamid or a musaf or whatever, but at the end of the day, when you have a ram, it could be brought for one of 10 different things. If you have a lamb, it can be brought for one of 10 different things. So we have no idea by looking at it from an outside perspective that what you're doing is right or wrong. By the mincha, it's very clear to us that if you're saying l'shem yichul kucher bichu shchinte marcheshes, and there's a machavad in front of you, everybody knows that you're a little bit off your rocker. So says the Gemara, hey chidami.
I thought that when you're doing the shchita or zrika, that although we say machshava, the Kohen actually says it, and then we hear it.
So again, it seems like from here that you would not have to necessarily do that, and that we would have no way of knowing what you're doing it for. That's what the Gemara implies here. Hechidami. So what's the case? It says ridiculous. If you're telling me that the guy knows what it is, and he just does it lahachis, he knows that it's a machavat, and he does it for a marcheshes, who cares that we look and say that, wait, the guy's crazy? At the end of the day, he's doing it for the wrong purposes, and we can't trump his thought process. So if he says l'shem yichud marcheshes and it's clearly a machavat and we all see it, who cares that we see that it's a machavat? At the end of the day, he's doing it for the wrong purposes, and that's mazid, and that should not be good. So what's the case where we said that he was doing it for the wrong thing, but it's going to be good because we all know elalav de kesavar marcheshesi v'kakametz la l'shum marcheshes v'ta. He thought this machavat, which is flat, he thought it was a marcheshes. Somehow he confused when he was in school. He wasn't paying attention that day. He thought that the hard one is a machava, is a marcheshes, and not the soft, fluffy one. So now he has a hard one here, and he does it l'shem marcheshes. Says Gemara, "Dahachu d'maseh mochichin ela." Since he at least thinks he's doing the right thing. In the other case, he was being lahachis. He knew that it was a machavat, and he does it l'shem marcheshes. We all see that it's a machavat. Here, he actually thinks that he's doing the right thing, and we all see that he's doing the wrong thing. It sounds like the only reason that we're saving him here is because we all know he has the right intentions, and we all know that he's doing the wrong thing. The fact that we all know that he's doing the wrong things only helps when he has the right intentions. When he has the wrong intentions, the fact that we all see that he's crazy, that's not going to help. When he has the right intentions, poor guy, he learned wrong, and we're all watching and we all have the right intentions because we see that he's doing something wrong, poor guy, then it'll work. But what does that imply? That if we're not all watching, even if he has the right intentions, if he's b'shogeg, he ruins it. It sounds like the fact that we're watching here and we know better, that's what's going to save us here. But that's against Rabbah, because that implies that in a case where nobody's watching, and he doesn't know any better, and he's a poor guy, at the end of the day, poor not monetarily, poor emotionally, or knowledge-wise, if he's a poor guy that doesn't know any better, and nobody's watching, it's going to get ruined, even though he's a poor guy that doesn't know any better. That implies Akira B'tos, Havi Akira, unlike Rabbah, that if you make a mistake, it's going to ruin it. Says the Gemara, Amalei Abaye, no. No, he knows it's a machavat, and he does it for the wrong thing, and that's why it's not going to work. But if he knew that if he thought he was doing the right thing, it would work. What's the only problem? Says the Gemara, so what's this talking about? Again, so he knew that it was a machavat, and he does it for a marcheshet. He knows he's doing the wrong thing. So why is he saved here? Who cares that we're looking? Because at the end of the day, Rav has another halacha that machshava de lo minkera pasal rachmana, that only something that's not recognizable will be pasul. Something that's recognizable, he has a separate halacha for a different reason, it will not be pasul. Since here the machshava that he's having is recognizable, over here the machshava of the mincha is recognizable, Lo pasal rachman, he's not going to pasal this case. But again, it's different. The bottom line is that it's different by a mincha. Since we're discussing a mazid case, again, there's no proof for the shogeg case, which is Rava was dealing with. Rava was dealing with a shogeg case, where he said an akira betos lahavi akira, it's not going to bother. Over here we're dealing with a mazid case. It's a special mazid case since we're dealing with a mincha and everybody knows, and there's a separate rule of Rava that when everybody knows what's going on, then it's going to make a different halachas. That's why the mincha case is different. But you can't prove anything from this mincha case of mazid to the case of Rava who is dealing with shogeg.
So this would be a low plug even in a place where no one's watching? Because potentially someone could? Or only when people are actually seeing it?
Sounds like only when people are seeing.
And we're not implying that when people are seeing it, they're correcting him.
They're not correcting him. I don't know why they're not, but okay. Zak the Mishnah. Tomorrow, we need to bring a tamid and a musaf. Let's say you only bring the tamid. That's it. You were only yotzei, but you were still yotzei the tamid. Let's say you only have enough korbanos to bring one or the other. We'll see which one. You can still bring one and not the other. You don't have to bring both the tamid and the musaf. This has a lot of practical ramifications in terms of davening shachris before musaf after shachris, etc. But the bottom line is that they're not ma'akiv each other, and if you have to bring numerous musafs tomorrow, like the Shabbos musaf and the musaf for Sukkos, so if you only have one and not the other, you could still bring one and not the other. Or if you only bring one, not the other, you're still going to be yotzei. Says the Gemara, we're going to get back to this in a second. So this is interesting. Now another thing. The Gemara says that if you don't bring a keves in the morning, you can't bring the keves in the afternoon. The equivalent of saying, if you don't daven shacharis, you're not allowed to daven mincha. We don't necessarily pass like that. If you were anus or shogeg, this talmud-comment is how we paskin. If you don't daven in the morning, if you don't daven shacharis, you can still daven mincha. Even if you're bemazid. You're lahachis in the morning, I'm not in the mood to daven shacharis, you don't ruin the rest of your life, you can still daven mincha. That's how we paskin. That's only if you woke up late. You slept in. Very interesting. He says that if you don't daven shacharis, you're not allowed to daven mincha that day. If you don't daven shacharis, you can't daven mincha that day. It's all or nothing, unless it was an accident in the morning. But if you do it in the morning and you do it on purpose, too bad, you can't daven mincha. Same thing. If you don't bring the ketoras, the incense in the morning, you can still bring it in the afternoon. He says something different. He says, here it's not the same achlokas. Here he's adding, he agrees. If you don't bring it in the morning, you bring it in the afternoon. The difference is he says if you bring it in the afternoon, you got to bring the whole amount. They say when you bring it in the afternoon, you only bring the half that's meant for the afternoon. He says, no, when you bring it in the afternoon, you bring the entire amount that was supposed to be brought in the morning, you bring in the afternoon as well. That's not as...
Like davening two Shemona Esrei.
Right, but here it's not about davening. Here it's talking about... Right. Says the Gemara, why? Because of the inauguration, they inaugurated the Mizbeach Hazav with Ketoras HaSamin. Now we're going to just talk about a few things about the inauguration. How did they inaugurate the Mizbeach HaOla with the Tamid Shel Shachar? How did they inaugurate the Shulchan with the Lechem HaPanim HaShabbos? How did they inaugurate the menorah with the Shiva Neirosel? Zok the Gemara, back to this discussion of Tmidin and Musaf. And again, we said that the Tmidin and Musaf are not ma'akev each other. If you don't daven shacharis, again, we're just using it in contemporary terms. If you don't bring the korban tamid, you can still bring the musaf. If you only brought the musaf, then you were yotzei. If you only brought the tamid, you were yotzei. They're not ma'akev each other. So what does this mean? The equivalent of you can only daven one. Or now they only have enough money to buy one or the other. So you're saying they're not ma'akev each other. Let's just say, whatever, you had enough money, you had enough animals, and for whatever reason you didn't bring the tamid, you could still bring the musaf. Or you have enough money for the tamid, and you don't have enough money for all the musafs, so you bring some of the musafs, fine. But now let's say you only have enough money for one or the other, the tamid or the musaf. You can only daven shacharis or musaf. Which one do you do? Eza man koden. Hechidami. Eli matmidin diyome, musafin diyome, pshita tmidin adife. Dehavala tadir umekudash. If we're talking about tomorrow, Shabbos. So now you can either bring the korban tamid or the korban musaf. So which one is it? Well, the korban tamid has two things going for it. First of all, it's tadir. You do it every day. Second of all, on Shabbos tomorrow, it's mekudash. It's a holier tamid than during the week. We said that before. The musaf only has one thing going for it. Well, you're assuming you're already jumping ahead. We don't know that it's first yet. We just know that the tamid. Who said the tamid has to be before the musaf? Now, Lamaisa, you're taking that for granted. The Gemara will say that in a second. This mission is the source of that. Says the Gemara. But now, Lamaisa, the musaf only has one thing going for it, that it's kadosh because it's Shabbos. It doesn't have the tadir aspect. So if they're both in front of us, you can only buy one, you can only daven one, clearly you're going to daven shacharis. That's obvious, because it's tadir and mekudash versus mekudash. Now the question becomes tomorrow. You could either daven musaf tomorrow. I'm not sure exactly. By davening, it doesn't work as much. But by buying the korban, you can either buy a korban musaf for tomorrow or a tamid for Sunday. Tamidin de lamachar or musavin da'inna. Choosing the example. You can either buy the musaf for tomorrow or the tamid for Sunday. Tamidin adivish kein tadir or dilma musavin adivid avalu mekudash. So do you buy the musaf for tomorrow because it's mekudash? The tadir on Sunday is not mekudash on a non-sukkos holiday. And then the tamid on Sunday is not mekudash. Now you have not tadir and mekudash versus mekudash. You have tadir versus mekudash. If for whatever reason you can only either daven musaf, you only have enough koch to either daven musaf on Shabbos or shachris on Sunday. Which one do you do? The Gemara says, I'm not sure. So you would think mitzvah baliyada, the Gemara does not mention that. Which one do you do? Because here you have a mitzvah both, because you're buying them now. That's why the davening case doesn't work as well. Now you're paying for both. Okay, maybe. Says the Gemara, Amar lei, tinisua. Ha-tmidin ma'akvenes ha-musafin, lo ha-musafin, ma'akvenes ha-tmidin, lo ha-musafin, ma'akvenes ha-zeh. Heichadam. So they want to bring a proof from our Mishnah that says what? They're not ma'akev each other. Do whatever you want. You want to buy the musaf one, buy the musaf one. You want to buy the tamid one, buy the musaf one. You can buy the tamid. Hey chadami, what's the case of our Mishnah? If you say you have both here and you're trying to figure out which one to shech first, you can't say do whatever you want, because we know we know from elsewhere. How do we know what Mendel just said when he walked in? Tamaloma v'arach aleh v'amar Rava ha'ola ola rishona. I would have said for Omar Mendel, but I can't do that. Ha'ola ola rishona. You see clearly from the pasuk v'arach aleh ha'ola that the ola comes first. So it can't be that the Mishnah is telling you do whatever you want when you have the tamid and the musaf in front of you, and you say which one should I shech first, Rabbi? Which one should I daven first? Do whatever you want. The Mishnah says no. That's not what the Mishnah is talking about. When you have both of them in front of you, you clearly do the tamid first and then the musaf. So what's the Mishnah talking about when it says do whichever one you want? What's that talking about? Ela pshita delasle. It's this case where you can only buy one, and it says do whatever you want. V'idi yomei amai. So now the question becomes, well, now they're both for today. It can't be that they're both for today, because what? Then you have the case we just had, tadir mekudash, tadir adif. If you have a question of which one should I daven tomorrow, clearly the shachris comes first, because it's tadir and mekudash. So the Gemara says it must be the case that we're asking about. Elalav dilamachar uketani emakvin zadzeh alma kiyad ninu. It must be the case we're talking about. We could either daven musaf on Shabbos or shachris on Sunday. You could either buy the musaf for Shabbos or the tamid for Shabbos for Sunday. Which one should you do? Mekudash versus tadir. Says our Mishnah. Do whatever you want. Up to you. Whatever you'd like. You like musaf in general, beautiful. You like shachris in general, beautiful. Whatever you like. Says the Gemara, Abaye, no. La'olam de'islehu lakadim. No, you're wrong. The Gemara is not talking about that. The Gemara is not answering the question. Our Mishnah is not discussing musaf versus shachris, and again, the Gemara is not actually going to answer that question. So what does it mean? It means that you have both of them, and which one should you do first? What do you mean, which one should you do first? We just said, we know from elsewhere, you always do the tamid before the musaf. No. From elsewhere, we know it's a mitzvah. It's a mitzvah that if you have the tamid versus the musaf, you daven shachris first. This Mishnah is telling you that b'di'eved, if you daven musaf first, you're yotzei. That's what the chiddush of this Mishnah is that in general it's a mitzvah. Tadir and mekudash versus tadir. Again, tadir versus mekudash we don't know. If you have the tamid versus the musaf tomorrow, it's tadir and mekudash versus tadir. For sure you're supposed to, we said mitzvah to daven shachris first. What's our Mishnah saying that the nam ha'akev each other? If you happen to come to shul tomorrow, doesn't happen to anybody here. If you happen to come just for Kiddush Club, JFK, just for Kiddush, then lamaisa you daven musaf. And then you realize, oh wait, I just got here, and then you daven shacharis, or you don't even daven shacharis and say, Rabbi, what should I do? Well, b'di'evid, you ready to daven musaf, you can still daven shacharis. That's what the chiddush of this Mishnah is. Mitzvah, daven shacharis before musaf. Get here on time. After the fact, b'di'evid, you could daven the namaki of each other. You could bring the musaf before the tamid, but it's not discussing tamid versus musaf. It's not discussing tadir. Again, tadir versus tadir umekudash versus tadir. For sure, if you can only do one, you do shacharis. After the fact, again, if you're ready daven musaf, you can still do shacharis. Right? There's three cases here. There's tadir versus mekudash, which we don't have an answer to. That's musaf on Shabbos versus shacharis on Sunday. We have tadir mekudash versus tadir, which is what? Which is tadir mekudash versus tadir. What are you supposed to do? So we said mitzvah b'alma, you should do the tadir first, shacharis. The ein ma'akvin zed teaches me that after the fact, if you do the musaf first, then Lamaiser b'di'evid you'll be yotzei that halacha.
Lamaiser, if you come in by musaf time, you can daven shmeiser with them together and then do shachris.
So again, I don't know Lamaiser which one you should do at that time, but you definitely, if you daven musaf, you can definitely still daven shachris. That's what the Gemara says. So the halacha, this comes up all the time by Yom Kippur. right? They say that if you haven't davened, you're supposed to try to get to Musaf, because of this Tadir thing, you're supposed to try to get to Musaf on Yom Kippur before the Zman for Mincha comes. Because let's say you're davening Shach is very long, and now it's 1 o'clock, and you're ready to daven Musaf, there's a whole discussion, you should really be davening Mincha first. Because now the Zman for Mincha is here, you should daven Mincha before you daven Musaf, Tadir versus Eino Tadir. What? Maybe, yeah. Says the Gemara. So that's the discussion. Bottom line is, we don't have an answer. Shacharis versus Musaf. Shacharis on Sunday versus Musaf on Shabbos. I don't know what the answer is. That's what the Gemara says. I'm not sure which one of the two to buy. It's talking about a different case when it's the same day.
You have another cheshbon to feel b'tzibur.
Okay.
Just go with Musa first.
Well, that's a question. Are you yotzei tefillah b'tzibur if you daven Shacharis while the tzibur is davening Musaf? Are you still yotzei tefillah b'tzibur? That's another question. Maybe you're yotzei tefillah b'tzibur as well. Says the Gemara. Tashma. So first, before we say we don't know the answer, we're trying to bring one more proof of Tadir versus Mekudash. Shacharis versus Musaf. Says the Gemara. Ein Pochsin again. Shacharis on Sunday versus Musaf on Shabbos. Ein Pochsin mishisha tlayim hamivukarim belishkas hatlayim kedei l'Shabbos u'lishnei yamim tovim sh'Rosh Hashanah. The Gemara says you always have to have 6 lambs that are pre-checked in the Lishkas Hatlayim for the case where it's Shabbos followed by Rosh Hashanah or Rosh Hashanah 2 days followed by Shabbos. Why is that? Says Gemara, Hechidami, what's the case? If you have a lot of animals, why are you only putting 6 aside? You need 6 tamids for those 3 days. You need 2 on each day, morning and afternoon. For Shabbos, let's just assume it's Shabbos followed by 2 days of Rosh Hashanah. You need 6 tamidin, 2, Shabbos, Sunday, Monday. But you also need, says Rashi, you need 16 musafin. 2 for Shabbos and then 14 for the 2 days of Rosh Hashanah, 7 and 7. So at the end of the day, why are you only putting aside 6 animals? You'd be putting aside 22 animals, 6 and 16. So it can't be that you have a lot of animals. So what's the case where it says you should put aside 6 before Yantiv? Again, Friday afternoon, let's say. You should make sure you have 6 in the Lishkas Hatlayim. It's much more than 6. Elalav de Lesley. What's it telling me? I only have 6. And what do? Ushma minat midin adifi. I should put aside the 6. I'm going to use them for the Tamid and not for the Musaf. Because Tadir is more important than Mekudash. Says the Gemara, lo olam de isla. No, you have plenty of animals. So why are you only putting aside 6? Because you only have to set aside the Tmidin for 4 days before you shech them. Umani, who's this? Ben Bagbag he, Ditanya Ben Bagbag Omer, Minayin Latamit Shaton, Beaker Dalad Yonim Kodesh Shchita, Tamalomar Tishmuru Lakiv Liba Moado, Ulhalu Nomer, Vayolacham Mishmaris Adar Basar Yom, Malal and Ton, Beaker Abar Yomim Kodem Shchita, Afkan Ton, Beaker Abar Yomim Kodem Shchita. We make a comparison between the Tamid and the Korban Pesach. And we know that the Korban Pesach, they brought 4 days early. They needed to watch it and check it every day for 4 days to make sure it had no blemishes. That's why we know we took it on the 10th of Nisan on Shabbos HaGadol, and they shachted it on the 14th of Nisan. So we learned from Korban Pesach, specifically to a Tamid, that there's a halacha, you have to check them for 4 days. So don't tell me that the case over here where we set aside 6, where we only had 6, we set them aside all for the Tamid, is because Tamid trumps Musaf. No, we set those 6 aside. We had plenty of animals. We just set aside 6 for those 3 days in order to watch them 4 days before. We set them aside earlier in the week to watch them for 4 days, so that when Shabbos comes, we could take the 2 that had been set aside for 4 days and watch over. We have plenty of other ones, and we're going to bring the Musafs also. We're not taking Tamids over Musafs. We're just telling you that by Tamids, there's a separate thing that you need to go ahead and take them. But we still don't have an answer to our question. Okay, so now we're just going to concentrate for one more minute on this idea. We separated 6 Tamids. We're going to bring Musafs also, but we separated 6 Tamids for this scenario where you have a 3-day Yontiv. Says Gemara, why are you only separating 6 then? What about the day after Yontiv, Tuesday morning at dawn? What's going to happen Tuesday morning at dawn? Nobody's going shopping Monday night. The rabbis work hard over Yontiv. They're not going shopping Monday night to the marketplace to go buy one for Tuesday morning dawn. So if you need to have the tzmidin set aside and watched over, you should really be putting 7 aside. 6 for the 3-day Yontiv, and 1 for the Tuesday morning. What about Tuesday afternoon, says Rashi? Tuesday afternoon is not a problem. You go to the marketplace Tuesday midday, 11 o'clock, and you can buy pre-checked ones. Like the Lulav and Esso, you can buy ones that have been washed for 4 days. The guys know what the Kohanim are looking for. So the Mochrim that have the 2 on them, they're all kosher and they have a hachsher. They said, not only do we have animals, we have animals that we've been watching for 4 days, and they're reliable people. So you can get the 4-day checked ones. You don't have to have for the 4 days after Yontiv as well. You can get the 4-day checked ones. But the Maisa, the Mitzvah says you're not going to go to the marketplace on Motzei Yontiv on Monday night. So why are they not putting aside 7 one for Tuesday morning as well. Says the Gemara, Amalei Ravino Rashi, Hani Shisha Shiva Havu. You should really have 7. Ta'ika Ditsafra Ditlasa B'Shabta for Tuesday morning. Rashi has a different girsa. He says Ta'ika Tsafra Dechad B'Shabta. Rashi's talking about when the case was where you had Thursday, Friday, Rosh Hashanah, and Shabbos was Shabbos, and then Sunday morning. It's the same thing, just a different way of looking at it. Says the Gemara, just interesting that he had a different girsa. Says the Gemara, L'tamecha, good question, I'll take you and I'll double you. What? T'man yahavu, da'ika defanya demal yashabta. Why are you only putting aside 7? You really need 8, because you need one Friday afternoon. They're not going to the marketplace Friday afternoon to go buy one. Says the Gemara, no. Halokasha de labasar de akrif kamar, no. This time about you need 6, after you already brought the Friday afternoon one, Erev Shabbos, Erev before. So now you need 6. The Gemara says, why you only need 6? You really need 7. What about Tuesday morning? Okay. Says the Gemara, and we'll conclude with this. My time is Shiva Havu. Elatana ba'amakai. No, when the Gemara said over here that you need to set aside 6, it wasn't saying you need to set aside 6 specifically for this case where Rosh Hashanah falls out after Shabbos. That case you need 7, Enachanami. It was giving an example, a mnemonic for you to remember. So that when you go home and somebody wakes you up tonight and says, how many do they have to set aside in the Lishkas in general? How many animals do they need set aside? 6. How are you going to remember that? 6 is a random number. Could have been 5, could have been 7. Oh, the rabbi discussed something about 3-day yontivs. 6. So the 3-day yontiv discussion is not because we're talking about that specific case. It's because to remind us that in general you need 6 set aside. Why do you need 6 set aside, says Rashi? To have some backup. To have a few extra days worth of stuff, of schora, in case something happens. And when you go in the first day and you have 6 there, you choose whichever 2 you want. And hopefully you restock it. But if for whatever reason you can't restock it that day, the next day you'll have another 2 as well. Says in Gemara, my time is Shiva Havu, ba'amakai. Umai, so then what does it mean? It's a very nice shot that it's talking about to remind you, but at the end of the day, read the Brisa. The Brisa says what? The Brisa says, "Ein pochsim ishisha tlaim amuvukar belishkas atlaim kedei l'shabes u'lishnei yamim tovim shel Rosh Hashanah." That sounds like you're specifically putting aside 6 in this case. Says Gemara, no, you're reading it wrong. My kedei l'shabes u'beis yamim tovim shel Rosh Hashanah simana ba'alma deika nami diktani kedei l'shabes. If it was talking about this specific case, you need 6 for this case, and we're saying no, you really need 7. What should it have said? V'lo kitani, you should have said that you put them aside l'shabes u'lebeis yamim tovim shel Rosh Hashanah. Shema mina, the fact that it says kedei l'Shabbos, it's an amount that would have been enough theoretically for Shabbos and Rosh Hashanah, and therefore at the end of the day, the way that you read it is that what it's telling you is a pochsim mishisha tlaim amukar belishkas atlaim. You should have 6. Why? How are you going to remember it? By remembering 3-day yontivs. But it's not talking about for the case of a 3-day yontiv. For the case of a 3-day yontiv, enachanami, how many do you need set aside? You need 7 at least, and probably 7 plus another 4. To have backup for the day after Yontiv. You should probably have 11 or 12 or 13. What's it talking about in general? It's talking about the minimum you always have to have set aside. It's 6. So that you'll have a few days leeway. How are you going to remember 6 when I wake up in the middle of the night? You're going to remember 6 because you're going to say, well, somehow this Gemara was connected to 3-day Yontivs, even though it's not really talking about 3-day Yontiv, it's connected to 3-day Yontivs. Therefore, when somebody asks you, you always need to have 6 that are ready. Anachaveit Saman Siko, Yagdil Taravi Adir. Amen.